Chapter 22. Femoral. The Fourth Hell.
Injuries sustained. Current injuries: broken ribs times 18. Speed reduced by 0.05 per instance, minus 0.9 speed. Bleeding times 6. You lose 5 HP per minute per cut, minus 30 HP per minute. Collapsed lung. Stamina at 50% efficiency. Concussion, moderate, random effects. Your visibility and hearing have been diminished. HP 120 of 190. Shields 0 of 220. Your death will occur in 4 minutes.
Crinan stumbled out of the portal and immediately collapsed onto the ground. He felt shards of the brittle glass-like rock dig into him and groaned at the extra pain. His entire body throbbed from his broken ribs and countless bruises. Every shallow breath he took hurt, and it felt like he wasn't getting enough air in his lungs, which was leading him to panic. He didn't have the strength to push himself back up. He could barely move. All he could do was lay his face against the sharp, jagged ground and let himself silently cry.
Crinan!
Malinka shouted. She quickly fell to her knees beside him and placed her hand on his back. His body jerked in place and he whined in pain at the unexpected touch. She gasped and pulled back.
Phoenix, damn it all!
She said as she looked over his mangled body.
What can I do?
Nothing,
Crinan wheezed.
I'll be dead in 4 minutes.
No.
Malinka shook her head and frantically started looking around for something to help.
There has to be a way to fix this. Some kind of move.
Dolly snapped as she dropped to the ground next to Malinka.
I can try something.
Malinka stood and stepped back as Dolly examined Crinan.
What are you?
Crinan started to ask, but groaned when Dolly placed her hands on his back.
Stop!
Quiet, little boy,
Dolly ordered.
IRL, I was a nurse. I mean, when I wasn't jiggling my booty on cam.
She snorted a laugh to herself for a moment and found one of the larger gashes on Crinan's body.
Aha!
She said.
There's a laceration over your femoral artery. You need to be a big boy here and work with me. This will hurt. I'm gonna flip you over to your back.
By the brothers, please, no,
Crinan begged.
Do you want to die?
Dolly asked as she poked a finger into his back.
If you do, I'll stand my perf ass up and go do something else.
Crinan was silent for a moment, but then released a grunt of submission, and Dolly smiled. She moved her way to the other side of Crinan's body, grabbed his upper arm, and took a breath.
Okay, time to roll over.
Crinan released a scream as he felt his broken ribs jostle around inside his chest. Dolly grit her teeth together at the sight of his mangled torso and, for a moment, just sat and stared.
Oh, you're fucked up,
Dolly said, tisking softly to herself.
We need to fix that.
No shit,
Crinan wheezed.
Okay, I'll need that sword of yours,
she said, and then nervously cleared her throat.
Why?
Crinan asked anxiously.
Because I'm the fucking medical professional? Do what I say.
Dolly reached down and grabbed Crinan's sword.
BTB, this is gonna be awkward. Okay, hold still.
Dolly quickly unbuckled the blood-soaked armor on Crinan's left thigh and haphazardly tossed it aside. She then cut through Crinan's pants, exposing the gushing wound. She hummed to herself curiously and then wiped the blood away.
How many cuts do you have?
6,
Crinan answered.
Ah, fuck.
She quickly raised a hand and cupped Crinan's head. After a brief moment, Crinan felt a wave of energy rush through him.
You have been healed. HP 190 of 190. Shields 0 of 220. Current injuries: broken ribs times 18. Speed reduced by 0.05 per fracture, minus 0.9 speed. Bleeding times 6. You lose 5 HP per minute per cut, minus 30 HP per minute. Collapsed lung. Stamina at 50% efficiency. Concussion, moderate, random effects. Your visibility and hearing have been diminished. Your death will occur in 6 minutes
20 seconds.
Well, good thing it works.
Dolly chirped.
Bought us some more time. Okay, so you're just gonna need to find a way to be comfortable here because I have to find the severed ends of that artery you let get fucked up.
I didn't let shit.
Crinan started, but was quickly cut off by Dolly.
Shut up.
She gently poked one of the ribs protruding from his chest, and he gasped in pain.
I'm in charge, so hold still because I have to cut your leg.
Crinan whimpered and tried to look up to see what was going on. Dolly worked to position the sword in a way where she had control, ultimately simply placing one of the edges against Crinan's thigh. She bit her lower lip and guided the blade to his laceration and then looked up at him.
Are you able to...
She saw the tears streaming from his eyes and shook her head.
No, you're too weak. Malinka, Ander, come here, babies.
Malinka and Ander did as they were told, and Dolly pointed down at Crinan's leg.
Okay, now which one of you is stronger?
Dolly asked, looking between the two.
Wait, never mind. Malinka definitely is. Malinka, I need you to hold down his leg. Don't let it move. Just, sit on his shin there. Ander, I need you to... Well, I need you to sit on his head.
I do believe I mistook your words, sweet Dolly,
Ander said as politely as he could muster.
Can you please...
Booty on face, nerd.
Dolly snapped as she pointed to a fearful-looking Crinan.
Now!
I wholeheartedly apologize for the experience we are about to share,
Ander said softly as he knelt down next to Crinan.
This is not how I anticipated my day going.
I'm going to bite your fucking sack, Crinan growled.
Do not put your butt on my face.
I'm sorry, Crinan. Take a deep breath, Ander said. A horrified expression marred his face as he closed his eyes and clenched his teeth together. With a gentle clearing of his throat, Ander began slowly lowering himself down.
Turn your head, Crinan,
Dolly yelled at him.
Don't let him sit on your mouth and nose. Hurry up!
Crinan reluctantly did as he was told, and soon after he felt the soft cheeks of Ander's bottom pressed down against his temple. The aroma of swamp ass hit his nose, and he nearly gagged.
Okay, Malinka on his ankles. Good,
Dolly said to herself as she returned to the sword.
Here we go!
Dolly dragged the blade across Crinan's laceration, and more blood pooled up to the surface. Crinan started convulsing in response, and Dolly set the sword down.
Push down harder, Malinka,
Dolly ordered.
I'm going in.
At that, she reached her fingers into the cut and started feeling around for the ends of the severed artery. Crinan's screams were muffled by Ander's ass, and as Dolly explored the inside of Crinan's thigh, she finally found what she was looking for.
Got it!
Dolly chirped.
Sucker really migrated down there, but I got it.
She brought the two ends together and then used her healing ability to mend the artery. After a moment, the heavy bleeding stopped, and Dolly sealed the thigh shut.
Okay, that's one. Only 4 more to go. We got this,
Dolly sang optimistically. She reached up underneath Ander's bum and pressed once against Crinan's temple, sending more healing power into his body.
You have been healed.
Over the course of the next half hour or so, Dolly worked across Crinan's body, finding the cuts that were draining his HP and healing them. Some were easier than others, but she couldn't seem to find the last two.
They're internal,
she spat, shaking her head.
I'm going to have to crack them open.
Please no,
Crinan begged.
I can just respawn. I'll get back here.
Nope,
Dolly replied.
We've come too far. We're almost done, Crinan.
They were not almost done.
What's that?
Dolly heard Malinka suddenly ask. Dolly turned her head to see what Malinka was talking about and felt her own heart sink.
Oh,
she whispered.
BTB, that is bad.
What?
Ander called back.
What is the matter?
He looked behind himself and saw a horde of bodies shambling toward them in the distance.
Touched,
Ander said.
And they have been empowered to fight like the rest of us.
Do you think they'll fight us, though?
Malinka asked.
Maybe they'll just walk by.
The touched fight everything,
Ander sighed.
If they come any closer, we will be forced to hold them off while Dolly finishes Crinan.
Dolly snorted a laugh at Ander's words. He looked at her curiously, and she just shook her head.
Yeah, while I finish him.
Malinka couldn't help but chuckle herself, and Ander was left confused.
What did I say?
Ander looked back and forth between Dolly and Malinka, but they both shook their heads at him.
Finish means come,
Krynen grunted from underneath him.
Get your ass off me and go fight the fucking touched.
I see, Ander said as he rose to his feet.
You all are as children.
He shook his head in annoyance, and each of his hands burst into flame.
Ah, power again. An opportunity to see exactly what I'm made of.
Malinka stood and joined Ander's side, pulling both of her axes free from her belt.
This should be interesting,
she said as she watched what had to have been hundreds of shambling bodies march toward them.
Oh, child.
Ander smiled and looked over at her.
This will be glorious. I can feel something within my mind imploring me to blast them all into nothing. We will do this together. You protect me, and I shall protect everyone else.
Deal,
Malinka said with a nod.
Okay, Krynen, we'll take this slow,
Dolly said as she helped him sit up.
I have to find your internal bleeding, and I have to mend your broken ribs. Anything else?
It says collapsed lung, Krynen grunted. It hurts to breathe.
Aw, you're so sweet.
Dolly fluttered her eyelashes and bit her lower lip.
I haven't got a compliment like that in forever.
It wasn't.
I know,
Dolly said with a smile.
Just lightening the mood. I mean, we have hundreds of undead coming at us from one side, and I'm about to chop your body into pieces on my end. Lots of bullshit to be frowning about.
Right,
Krynen said, not amused by Dolly's antics.
Just get on with it.
He watched as Ander and Malinka ran to engage the touched, and then felt Dolly gently cut his blood-soaked shirt away from his body. He was feeling a little better now that most of the bleeding had stopped, but his body was still throbbing with pain from the broken ribs.
Okay, I'm gonna do a bit of discovery here,
she said as she gently placed her fingertips on Krynen's chest.
How many broken ribs?
18,
Krynen replied.
What the fuck?
Dolly gasped, but then cleared her throat and nodded her head.
I mean, sure, no problem.
Dolly softly ran her fingers up Krynen's ribs, searching for where the fractures were. Pain shot through Krynen's body the whole time, and Dolly giggled every time he winced.
18 then,
she said as she pulled her hand away.
This will hurt, Krynen, okay?
Just whatever,
Krynen replied in a defeated tone.
Get it done so I can go help them.
Dolly nodded and placed the edge of Krynen's sword against the first fracture.
Ready?
She asked.
Don't bite your tongue off, okay?
Okay,
Krynen said. At that, Dolly pushed with the blade and began the process of opening up Krynen's chest.